Welcome to InterviewU, where your questions take center stage. You submit the questions, and we interview the professionals. Today, we're collaborating with the YouTube channel at Rose AJ Coates. Rose AJ sits down with Joanna to explore her carnivore journey and her new focus on emotional alignment, her way of giving back to a community she deeply respects.
So watch, listen, and learn all about Joanna Ruth and emotional alignment.
Yeah.
Whereas you're able to eat butter, I tried, butter for the longest time, which I really do love butter, but
Mm.
it doesn't love me in the sense that I want it all the time when I eat it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I can
Yeah.
go
Well,
through a stick
that's
of butter without blinking an eye and
yeah.
put butter in everything. That's one of the things, it's a no-go for me,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a big
Yeah.
sign, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think when you
yeah.
simplify as much as carnivores do,
Mhm.
if you wake up thinking about the butter, I used to wake up thinking about how am I going to put cheese in my meal? How can I be creative with cheese, right? And that's what I noticed when I took out the dairy. The coffee, not so much. I can take coffee in and out of my diet really quite easily. I'm more inclined to use it as a drug. Like if I really need it as a wake up drug, I'll use it like that, because I have the control of dropping it back out. But the reason why I really dropped it out this time is because I don't want I don't want a confusion of stimulants. So I wanted to be able to judge my energy levels on an organic level and not have coffee helping me because my body is lazy in that way. And it will rely on the coffee, and that's why I'll have one, and then 3 weeks later I'm having two, and then 4 weeks later I'm having three. But with dairy, it's one day I'll have a bit of dairy, then the next day I'm having like a meal full of dairy because I can't stop thinking about the dairy. And I think when it's that case, and for you it's butter, and for me it was the cheese. Um, you have to consider that your brain is getting something out of it more than just the nutrition, and it's upsetting your balance.
That dopamine hit. I have to share with you that
Yeah.
I had been a coffee connoisseur since I was around 20-ish or so because along
Yeah.
with exercise, I found that coffee, the caffeine helped with my depression, right? It helped to
Mm.
offset some of the
Yeah.
things that I was going through. But back then, it was a lot of sugar, a lot of flavored creamers and whatnot. And then when I started on this lifestyle in 2018, lots of experimentation, I took out
Mm.
the sweeteners, the equal, and all that stuff and just went straight black.
Yeah.
And after removing so many things from my diet, first it was keto for about a year and a month. Then I went straight carnivore in 2020. And then I still had a lot of ebbs and flows, a lot of relapses, a lot of binging until I understood that
Mm.
I was an addict, hooked on certain foods and whatnot. But I kept coffee in my protocol because I was like, I've given up everything else.
I
I need
know.
to keep caffeine in. So I would go I would challenge myself, go 2 weeks without coffee, go a month and a half without coffee, off and
Mm.
on. But I really, really enjoyed coffee as a way of taking care of myself. It was a mood adjuster, but it was on a
Mm.
pathological level, if you know what I mean. Instead of
Yes.
one
Yeah.
venti, it was like 3 black cups of coffee, 24-ounce cups of coffee a day,
Yeah.
Starbucks, the whole nine. And so
Mm.
this past July 23rd, I just said, you know what? I'm done with coffee. I am no longer a coffee connoisseur because not
Mm.
only is it expensive, but it's like I don't want to be hooked on anything that's required
Yes.
to help me with my
It
personality,
feels
with my
like
workouts.
a
It's a drug.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
It becomes an idea of, and I've had this idea for a very long time about vulnerability. And it's okay to be vulnerable if you're choosing to be vulnerable, but it's not okay to be vulnerable to something that you have no control over. So
Yeah.
I was being made very vulnerable by these addictions that I had. And addictions
Yes.
are a compulsive behavior. And I didn't want to be beholden to any compulsive behavior. And the only way you can find out if it's a compulsive behavior is to remove it and see
Right.
how much
Right.
you cry about that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you
then I
have to do
also
that to
find
yourself. Mm.
I also find that, like with drug addiction, alcohol, other things that people may be struggling with, for a short amount of time, a few years, I was a weekend drinker, meaning that every
Mhm.
weekend I was like, hey, I'm happy to drink, because then
Yeah.
I thought, what's next? If it's food and it's alcohol, what's next? Now, I've never done any, illegal drugs. I can't even do what is it, like the NyQuil and stuff, because it gives me a
Mm.
hangover. So
Oh,
I
wow.
can't do anything like that, right? So I know that I'm a wimp when it comes to that, and I'm just terrified of it. But I started piecing it together. If I'm doing the food thing and now I'm doing the alcohol thing actually has to go, because that's going to be more detrimental, right?
Yep.
So I
Yep.
haven't had a drink since 2018. But I said I
Congratulations.
will always have food. I'll always have food to varying degrees, right? And
Yeah, we have to
so
eat. We do have to eat. Yes.
So that remained my drug of choice. And now what I'm really working on is, do you have foods that are carnivore foods, but that you can still get hooked on? And like we talked about the cheese, maybe creamer. And for me,
Yeah.
it's bacon and
Mhm.
coffee and stuff like that, that I just have to refrain from.
Yeah, I think I do think about this. I ask myself this question. Um, am I choosing anything that I observe that I eat often, like I eat it often? I always ask myself the question, am I eating this because I like the taste, it's convenient, or am I eating it like I really, really, really want it? Because there's a difference. Yeah. So I'm considering at the moment, you call them shrimp, we call them prawns. I'm because I eat them all the time. I like the texture is different, and I often just chop them up with you call it ground beef. So I'll do the ground beef in a little bit of butter, and then chop up the shrimp, and then I make this egg batter. So I take a box of eggs. I take out 6 of the whites, so it's more yolky, and I cook the whites for my dog. And I put in 2 tablespoons of gelatin and 1 tablespoon of collagen and a knob of butter, and I whiz it up with the hand stick blender, and it thickens up, and it kind of acts a bit like a batter, but without any flour or anything in it. So I make the proteins in the pan, and then I'll pour over some of this and mix it through, and it kind of gives it sort of like the Japanese pancake vibe. And it's nice to eat cold as well. So I make that a lot because it's really convenient and it satisfies the different textures for me. And I think, do I panic if I can't get it? That's a signal. Like if I imagine the shop is not going to have shrimp for 2 weeks. How do you feel? That's that's a good test of if you imagine that, well, the shops aren't going to have it. Are you going to panic? Because it's not like you don't have other food.
I hope you've enjoyed our interviews, and thank you to everyone who's submitted questions so far.
If you've got fresh ideas, leave your questions and comments below, and we'll get to work on them.
Bye for now.
See you in our next set of interviews.
Hello, I'm Joanna Ruth, but you can call me Joanna. I've embraced a carnivore lifestyle increasingly for the past 10 years. Now honing my diet to include meat, seafood, eggs, butter and salt. No plants or dairy anymore for me. With 30 years of experience in education, teaching both adults and children, I've spent the last 20 years developing effective life coaching methods. I now focus on the mental environment as a crucial factor in our health, and I'm excited to share the method of emotional alignment with the carnivore community, another secret weapon to use for our well-being successes. I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Please subscribe to the channel and email us if you'd like more information about life coaching. Here's a playlist for the entire series. Please like and subscribe, it helps more than you know. See you in the next video.